During a speech that was given in Australia, Tucker Carlson discusses various topics, from Julian Assange's release to the state of Australia on the world stage. Carlson expresses his elation at the news of Julian Assange's release, which he learned about while on a flight to Australia. He congratulates Australia on this development and states that anyone who believes Assange should still be in prison is an enemy of human freedom and flourishing. Carlson criticizes the treatment of Assange, pointing out that he spent 12 years in custody without being charged with a crime in Great Britain. He argues that this is a clear abuse of human rights and questions why Australia didn't do more to secure Assange's release, given that he is an Australian citizen. Carlson encourages Australia to reassess its position on the world stage, suggesting that it should be more assertive in international affairs. He argues that Australia has significant advantages over many other countries, including vast natural resources, a well-educated population, and a stable, egalitarian society. Carlson contends that Australia should be one of the most powerful countries in the world and advises against taking orders from other nations, particularly referencing the United Kingdom. A significant portion of Carlson's talk focuses on immigration and its impact on national identity. He warns against what he sees as the dangers of mass immigration, citing examples from other countries like Canada and the United States. Carlson argues that rapid demographic changes can lead to social and economic problems, emphasizing that a government's primary responsibility should be to its citizens rather than to immigrants or refugees. He stresses the importance of maintaining a country's cultural and social fabric, suggesting that unchecked immigration can threaten this. Carlson is highly critical of the mainstream media, both in Australia and internationally. He accuses many journalists of being aligned with government interests rather than challenging power on behalf of the powerless. Carlson emphasizes the importance of free speech and expresses concern about efforts to criminalize certain forms of speech, particularly regarding immigration and demographic changes. He argues that the right to express one's beliefs is fundamental to human autonomy and that any attempt to suppress this right is a form of dehumanization. When asked about China, Carlson acknowledges the complexity of the situation but expresses concern about China's growing influence, particularly in relation to Australia's resources. He suggests that China's large population and need for resources could pose a threat to Australia's sovereignty. Carlson is skeptical of Australia's reliance on alliances with the United States and United Kingdom for protection, arguing that democratic countries cannot be consistently reliable partners due to changing governments and evolving public opinions. Carlson expresses concern about the integrity of elections in the United States, particularly regarding electronic voting machines and changes to voting procedures implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic. He argues for the importance of voter ID laws, dismissing claims that such laws are racist. Carlson contends that nearly all adults in the United States have some form of government-issued ID and that requiring ID for voting is a common practice in many other countries. Carlson shares some insights from his career as a journalist, discussing challenging interviews he has conducted. He mentions that Donald Trump is one of the most difficult people to interview due to his tendency to go off on tangents. Carlson also talks about his interview with Vladimir Putin, explaining that his goal was to elicit information rather than to demonstrate moral superiority over the interviewee. Throughout the talk, Carlson criticizes what he sees as excessive political correctness and the use of labels like racist or conspiracy theorist to shut down debate. He argues that these tactics are used to silence legitimate questions and concerns. Carlson encourages people to remain open-minded and rational when evaluating different ideas and theories, even if they are initially dismissed as conspiracy theories. Carlson concludes by reiterating his admiration for Australia and its potential. He urges Australians to recognize their country's strengths and advantages, cautioning against following the path of other Western nations that he believes have declined due to poor leadership and misguided policies. Carlson emphasizes the importance of prioritizing the interests of Australian citizens and maintaining the country's unique character and quality of life. The talk is followed by a Q&A session where Carlson fields questions from journalists. He engages in heated exchanges with some reporters, particularly when questioned about his views on immigration and the Great Replacement theory. Carlson strongly denies ever saying that whites are being replaced, insisting that his concern is for all native-born Americans, regardless of race. He accuses some journalists of misrepresenting his views and using loaded questions to imply racism. When asked about China and the AUKUS partnership, Carlson expresses skepticism about relying on alliances with the US and UK for protection. He suggests that Australia should be more self-reliant and questions the wisdom of allowing foreign troops on Australian soil. Carlson also addresses questions about election integrity in the United States, expressing concern about potential voter fraud and criticizing changes to voting procedures implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic. He argues for the importance of voter ID laws and dismisses claims that such laws are racist. Throughout the Q&A, Carlson maintains a combative stance towards what he perceives as biased or unfair questioning from journalists. He repeatedly criticizes the media for what he sees as a lack of objectivity and a tendency to align with government interests rather than challenging power. Tucker Carlson's talk and subsequent Q&A session cover a wide range of topics, from international relations and immigration to media criticism and election integrity. Throughout, he presents a perspective that is critical of mainstream narratives and encourages Australians to assert their country's strengths on the world stage. Carlson's comments, particularly on immigration and media bias, provoke strong reactions and heated exchanges with some of the journalists present. His overall message emphasizes the importance of national sovereignty, free speech, and prioritizing the interests of citizens over international concerns.